Part 13, the finale. Sijue reached down to pick up the scroll and sensed a memory charm on it. It was the memory charm that was drawing him in. He hesitated, wondering what it might do to him. But after a few minutes, unable to detect anything malicious, while the draw of the memory charm became more and more powerful, he let his hand touch the scroll. Back in their bedroom, Lan Sijue's wife Su Qian suddenly woke up. She bolted out of bed and out the door, running as fast as she could toward the library. Sijue felt a flood of memories return to him. He ran out of the library and sprinted home. When they saw each other, Su Qian stopped out of breath. She was 6 months pregnant. Lan Sijue ran to his wife and picked her up. Suyu, Lan Cheng. They were laughing and crying as he carried her home. The day they met was the day the 1,000-year curse had lifted. When their eyes met across the room that day, they each knew they were destined to be together. Su Qian's parents objected at first. She was just 18 and Sijue was almost 50. But when Su Qian insisted that Lan Sijue was the only man she would ever marry, they gave in. They even agreed to the double wedding because the way Lan Sijue and Su Qian looked at each other worried them. Best to have them marry as soon as possible than have their daughter's reputation ruined. Sijue wasn't going to let that happen. He had waited this long, he was going to wait as long as it took to protect his bride's reputation. But he was grateful for the expedited process. That evening when Sijue knocked on their door, Lan Wangji opened it. He was grateful for Sijue's help getting into the secret library. Hongguang Jun, let me help you. Sijue's eyes were shining. Help me with what? Lan Wangji asked. Sijue pulled out the scroll. This? Lan Wangji's eyes widened. How? I wrote the scroll. I am Lan Cheng, Sijue told him. Lan Zhan, what's he talking about? Wei Wuxian interjected. What scroll? Who is Lan Cheng? I think we should sit down, Lan Wangji suggested. I'll make some tea. You drink this, he handed Wei Wuxian his medicine. So controlling, Wei Ying pouted. Sijue laughed. How are you feeling, Senior Wei? Confused, Wei Wuxian pouted. Sijue laughed again. There was another knock at the door. Sijue jumped up knowing who it was. I thought you could use a woman's guidance, Su Qian said softly, looking down. Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian looked at each other. I think she can help. Sijue was quick to back up his wife. She was the one who had figured out what Lan Wangji was trying to do. She was also the one who told Sijue he had to find a way to keep Wei Wuxian at cloud recesses or he wouldn't survive another year. Don't worry, she won't talk. We'll take any help we can get, Lan Wangji finally said, when he got over the shock of a woman in their home. Someone please tell me what's going on. Wei Wuxian begged. All right, Lan Wangji said. Several hours later Wei Wuxian sat tapping his nose. When were you going to tell me all this? When I was confident we could make it work. I didn't want to give you any false hopes. Si Jue had been right, Su Qian had much insight to provide. Things seemed possible now. We should get going, Si Jue said. We need to go get the children. Su Qian had left them with her sister and Zhu Jun after they left Lan Wangji, and Wei Wuxian continued to discuss their past, opening up more and more about what they had gotten wrong and how they should move forward. Now that Wei Wuxian knew what Lan Wangji was trying to do, he started taking it all much more seriously. All this was necessary to form the bond, and the bond would allow Lan Wangji to heal Wei Wuxian. With the stakes so high they were brutally honest with each other. At first Lan Wangji tried to put everything on himself, but Wei Wuxian had to admit his own mistakes and faults. It had taken him 13 years to finally recognize them. It wasn't until that last day after releasing the lantern and wishing for Lan Wangji's return that he finally recognized the pain he put Lan Wangji through when he threw himself off the cliff, that he had been asking Lan Wangji to trust him when he wasn't trusting Lan Wangji. Had he told Lan Wangji about giving his golden core to Jiang Cheng, things would have been different. Had he been less arrogant, he might have been able to see that Lan Wangji was on his side. Constantly there, like a distant shadow waiting for the moment he was needed. Instead, he was always angry with him, accusing him of interfering with his decisions and pushing him away. But he got a perverse pleasure out of playing with Lan Wangji's feelings. Constantly teasing him and flirting with him, then pulling back when Lan Wangji responded. He continued to do this throughout their marriage. Begging for attention, then teasing his husband, deliberately trying to unsettle him. Through it all Lan Wangji loved him. He also understood why Lan Wangji clung to him so fiercely. After losing Lan Wangji for 13 years, he wanted to cling to him and never let go. For hours Wei Wuxian had knelt on the ground lamenting all the things he had done to Lan Wangji over the years, begging for a second chance. They also had to learn how to navigate future conflict in a better way, and that was where Su Qian and Lan Sijue's guidance became invaluable. Over 1,000 years ago they had figured it all out. All this was important because the bonding would tether their golden cores, making it impossible for them to be separated beyond the length of the tether. The only way to separate was through death, and if one died, the other would immediately die. They wouldn't be able to kill each other either. So, if they couldn't live in harmony, they ran the risk of driving each other insane and could end up hurting other people around them. This was one of the reasons the stipulations for performing the bond were so demanding. There were other requirements. Neither could be seeking the bond for personal gain, and there had to be a true love connection. They also had to wholeheartedly agree to die when the other died. The last one was easy for them. Having lived through long separations, neither of them wanted to live without the other. 10 days later they were finally ready. As they kissed with the intention of binding their golden cores, strands of spiritual energy emanated from Lan Wangji's golden core reaching into Wei Wuxian. The golden core he had inherited from Mo Xuanyu was weak, and after living in a drunken stupor for so many years it had shriveled up into something resembling a walnut. As Lan Wangji's golden core repaired the golden core in Wei Wuxian's body, Wei Wuxian started to feel spiritual energy surging through him. As the minutes passed, he felt more and more powerful. When he gave up his own golden core, he was still a teenager. It was very robust for his young age, but nothing like the powerful golden core Lan Wangji had developed over the years. Lan Wangji started healing Wei Wuxian, giving him the body of a healthy 25-year-old. Feeling invincible, Wei Wuxian picked Lan Wangji up and carried him to bed. "Now I am a match for you again," he said, pinning him down. Lan Wangji grabbed Wei Wuxian's shoulders and flipped him over to be on top and growled, "Not in this lifetime." But then he flipped them back over and put his hands over his head in surrender. "But have your way with me if you want to, Wei." "Lanagogo, what did you call me?" Wei Wuxian was shocked. In the past, whenever Wei Wuxian had asked to be called by any term of endearment, Lan Wangji had refused, saying it was childish. "You do not like it?" Lan Wangji asked. "Is there something else I should call you?" "I love it." Wei Wuxian started kissing him. At dawn they emerged and stripped branches from trees to spar with each other. Baiken was in the modern world and Suabian. Wei Wuxian had no idea where Suabian could be. When Zhu Jun showed up with their morning meal, he gasped. Not only at the sight of Wei Wuxian sparring so evenly with Wangji, this was quite a surprise. The bigger surprise was that Wangji was laughing. He had never seen Wangji laugh. I'm assuming you will no longer be needing my services, Zhu Jun said. Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian looked at each other and laughed. That night, after much discussion, Lan Sijue and Su Qian made the decision to reunite their golden cores. Su Qian's main concern was her pregnancy, but Lan Sijue convinced her that the baby would not be harmed, and that this would give her added protection if it was a difficult birth. The moment their golden cores reunited, back in the modern world, the old monk woke up and smiled. "Det Pei," he thought. To his surprise, he saw that Lan Wangji had managed to bond with Wei Wuxian. He was also able to see the connection between Lan Wangji and Lan Cheng. He knew there was a connection, but until now he hadn't been able to see the nature of the connection. It was quite complex and interesting, especially the part Wei Wuxian had played in bringing Lan Wangji and Lan Cheng together. Even so, if the relationship between Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian hadn't been in such dire straits, he wouldn't have been able to pull Lan Wangji away and set things in motion. Had he not acted, they would have separated and gone their own ways, leading to a tragic end for both. It's a good day, he thought, a very good day. Then he closed his eyes and drew his last breath. At the birthday party, after the children had been sent to bed, Lan Cheng asked Lan Wangji to resume his duties as Grand Master. Wangji respectfully reminded his uncle that the Lan clan already had an excellent Grand Master. That when, Lan Cheng muttered. "He isn't a Wen uncle," Lan Wangji said firmly, "he is a Lan." "Perhaps I should properly introduce myself," Lan Sijue said, rising to his feet. He bowed to Lan Cheng and Lan Shichen. "My name is Lan Cheng. This is my wife Su Yu." "Not the Lan Cheng?" Zhu Jun asked. Sijue nodded. "The Lan Cheng." "Impossible!" Lan Cheng exploded. "Not impossible, uncle, he is indeed the Lan Cheng," Lan Wangji said calmly. Several hours later, a bewildered Lan Cheng withdrew all his objections to Lan Sijue being the Lan clan grandmaster. Despite being born into the Wen clan, Lan Sijue was indeed a Lan. Fate had twisted and turned and led to the unfolding of events as they needed to happen. "Since you will not be Grand Master again, what are your plans, Wangji?" Zhu Jun asked. Lan Wangji filled everyone in on their plans. Years ago, he and Wei Wuxian had come across two young cultivators, Xiao Xingchen and Song Lan. They were wandering the countryside clanless, offering their services to anyone who needed them. At the time, Wei Wuxian expressed his desire to follow suit. When Lan Wangji offered Wei Wuxian the opportunity to do it, he was thrilled. Losing his headband meant that Lan Wangji could finally cut his ties with the Lan clan and give Wei Wuxian the wandering life he always wanted. "You'll come visit?" Zhu Jun asked. "If we are welcome, we will come visit," Lan Wangji said calmly, keeping his gaze firmly on his husband. "As long as I am clan leader, you will both be welcome to stay here as long as you wish, whenever you wish," Zhu Jun said. Lan Cheng looked like he was going to say something but stopped himself. He knew when he was defeated. "10 years had passed. Other than their brief visits to cloud recesses, Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian had not slept in a bed for 10 years. They preferred sleeping out in the wild where they didn't have to worry about disturbing anyone. Wei Wuxian became an expert at making small watertight shelters out of grass that they used on rainy and snowy nights. They swam in lakes and rivers to bathe and wash their clothes. They were never hungry. There was always someone in need of help in every town and village. They weren't picky. They would help with anything, though they preferred dealing with demons and evil spirits. Most of the time they were compensated with food. On the rare occasion they got some money, they would spend what they needed at that moment and give the rest to the orphaned homeless children every town and village seemed to have. Wei Wuxian never forgot the year he spent on the streets scrounging for scraps after his parents died. When they weren't near a town or village, Wei Wuxian would hunt or fish, while Lan Wangji collected edible plants for their pot. Before they left cloud recesses, they had new swords made. At first, they struggled to decide who would get Ichi together and who would get Yong forever. But they quickly realized it didn't matter. Because their golden cores were tethered, they could each use either sword interchangeably. Most of the time, neither knew exactly which sword they were carrying. That night they were on a mountaintop watching the stars. A falling star streaked across the sky, but neither made a wish. Everything they could wish for was by their side. Lan Wangji let out a sigh of contentment. Wei Wuxian propped himself up on his elbow. Tell me. He grinned, knowing what Lan Wangji was going to say. I never thought I could be this happy. Lan Wangji said. You say that every night, Wei Wuxian laughed. Because every night I feel happier than I was the night before. Lanagugo, I think I can make you happier, Wei Wuxian said grinning. Always Wei Dd, always, Lan Wangji said as he pulled Wei Wuxian closer. Xiao Zhan woke up feeling groggy. He had fallen asleep at the computer again. He was starting a new drama in a few hours, and he wanted to finish the narrative so he could have a clear head. He went to the kitchen and made a cup of coffee. Back at the computer he sipped his coffee, and his eyes fell on the headband Lan Wangji had left behind. He picked it up and ran his finger over the intricate orchid pattern. It was an honor to meet you, my friend, he whispered. He put the headband down and turned to the computer. There was one last sentence he had to type. Lan Wangji and Wei Wuxian went on to lead very long and very happy lives together.